Genghis Khan left behind a legacy that not many other people in history can match. He built the world's biggest, most connected empire, inspiring both fear and respect along the way. Genghis Khan and his descendants changed the way politics and society worked on many countries. They also had a huge effect on human genetics. Genghis Khan's sexual activities helped him build his kingdom, and many of the same things his sons did continued after him. For example, Mongol leaders had many wives and many children, so they literally spread their seed. How did it turn out? A genetic heritage that lives on in the present day. Researchers have been able to find out how far and wide the Mongol DNA mark goes, and the results are mind-boggling. About 1 in 200 people in the world can trace their genes back to Genghis Khan, according to figures. However, the results are not at all clear. Here are some interesting facts, huge implications, and fresh ideas about how people from the past are still very much living in all of us that explain how and why it happened. Genghis Khan's primary wife, Borte, bore 4 sons and at least 5 daughters. Mongol society was polygamous, a fact noted by Western observers during the mid-13th century. The Mongols have as many wives as they can afford and generally buy them, so that except for women of noble birth, they are meme chattels. They marry anyone they please, except their mother, daughter and sister from the same mother. But not all wives were bought, and in Mongol society, women had more than one job. Genghis Khan had many wives, but his first and main wife, Borte, was very important to his future victories, especially when it came to having children. Borte and Genghis Khan, who was known as Temujin at the time, met through their dads, Day and Yesugey. Both of them were about 10 years old. After their dads agreed, Temujin moved in with his future wife's tribe until they got married. After Temujin and Borte got married, Borte was taken by people who wanted to be king in the future. He later saved her and killed the bad guys in the process, but she had Yochi soon after she got back. Because she had been held for 8 months, it was impossible to be sure of Yochi's father. One of the people who held her had made Borte his wife and may have gotten her pregnant. Borte and Temujin had 3 more boys over the next few years, Chaghatai, Ogedei, and Tolui. Temujin raised Jochi as if he were his own child. The pair also had 5 daughters together, Fujin Beki, Alaka Beki, Temuluin, Altalun, and Checheigen. Daughters would prove essential to the success of Genghis Khan's growing empire. Historian Jack Weatherford pointed out that Genghis Khan's sons were self-indulgent, good at drinking, mediocre in fighting, and poor at everything else. His daughters, however, were entrusted with key diplomatic roles through strategic marriages. Genghis Khan always married his daughters to only the most trustworthy of allies. His daughters married men from aristocratic lineages of the steppes, and later he extended this practice to the ruling lineages of specially chosen neighboring kingdoms. He had numerous other Mongolian wives and hundreds of concubines. Besides his relationship with Borte, Genghis Khan was also seeing other women. Yesugen and Yesui, 2 wives, were sisters from a Tartar group that the Mongols beat. The secret history of the Mongols says that Yesugen asked the chief to take her older sister Yesui into his heart with her. Kalan Khatun was Genghis Khan's second wife. She was given to him after he defeated the group led by her father. In the Mongol court, she was seen as less important than Borte. Kulan Khatun, like Genghis Khan's other wives, was given land to run. This was a smart move by the Mongol leader. However, Ibaka Beki was married to Genghis Khan for a while before marrying his general, Jurchadei. Similarly, Moga Khatun went from being with Genghis Khan to being with his son, Odadei. He wrote a book called The Secret History of Mongol Queens, in which he says Genghis Khan never had more than 4 wives at a time. It's true that the names of the women in Genghis Khan's life were not always clear. Concubines and wives are 2 examples, and no one knows how many children these relationships produced. Genghis Khan is thought to have had hundreds of concubines. Many of them came from the tribes he ruled over or were given to him by them. Genghis Khan had at least 5 sons, but may not have been Genghis Khan's child. His children and grandchildren would fight with their father and rule over his growing kingdom. They also had many wives and children, but no one knows how many. It's still not clear if all of Genghis Khan's children added to his genetic legacy. Genghis Khan's biggest son, Yochi, was born after the Merkid people had captured Borte. Because of this, people started to guess who Yochi's real father was, and current scholars still talk about this. It's not fully clear that Genghis Khan had biological ties to Yochi, but the leader did say that he was his child. To make a point, let's say Yochi was Genghis Khan's son. He followed the Mongol custom of having many wives and concubines, and had at least 14 sons of his own. Some say the number could have been as high as 40. Ogedei, Chagatai, and Tolui each had multiple wives and concubines. Genghis Khan's other kids by Borte got parts of his empire after he died in 1227 CE. They were Ogedei, Chagatai, and Tolui. The third son of Genghis Khan, Ogedei, became the second great Khan of the Mongols. The second son, Chagatai, was in charge of the west, and the fourth son, Tolui, was in charge of the Mongolian lands. When Genghis Khan died, all of his kids had already married more than one woman. The first wife of Ogedei, Borachin, didn't have any children, but his second wife, Torigin, had 5 kids. His main wife was Yesulun Khatun, who was related to Borte and had 4 kids with him. We don't know how many children Chagatai had with his other wives and concubines. In 1203 CE, Tolui was given Sorokoktani as a wife, and they had 4 kids together. 6 more sons were born to him through other relationships. Kublai Khan was said to have had dozens of sons. Genghis Khan and his sons spread both Mongol culture and DNA, and many of their relatives did the same. Kublai Khan, who was Tolui's son and started the Yuan dynasty in China, was said to have had a lot of kids. Tegulun was Kublai Khan's first wife, but not much is known about her. Tarakan and Bayaguchin were his other main women, but it was Chabi, his wife, who had the most impact on him. Chabi had 4 boys, and Marco Polo said that 18 other male children could also legitimately claim Kublai Khan's name. Besides that, His Majesty had 25 sons by his concubines. The expanse of Mongol domination meant the gene pool spread. By the middle of the 14th century, the Mongols had taken control of most of Asia and parts of Eastern Europe. Genghis Khan started the kingdom, and his sons and grandsons watched it grow. This led to cultural and biological exchanges that spread Mongol DNA, especially Genghis Khan's DNA. A quote attributed to Genghis Khan attests to the precedent he set in action and policy. The real greatest pleasure of men is to repress rebels and defeat enemies, to exterminate them and grab everything they have, to see their married women crying, to ride on their steeds with smooth backs, to treat their beautiful queens and concubines as pajamas and pillows, to stare and kiss their rose-colored faces, and to suck their sweet lips of nipple-colored. Mongol leaders like Ogedei, Tolui, and Kublai Khan got married and had children with other women after they conquered other lands. In turn, this led to an endless number of sons and daughters all over the kingdom. There was something called some incredible social advantage that the Mongols had over other men, so they passed on DNA over and over again. By 1260 CE, sources were noting Genghis Khan's genetic impact. As early as the 1300s, people knew that Genghis Khan and his children and grandchildren had a big impact on society. By the 1260s, the Persian historian Ala ad-Din Atta-Malik Juvaini had written, "Of the issue of the race and lineage of Genghis Khan, there are now living in the comfort of wealth and affluence more than 20,000. More than this I will not say, lest the readers should accuse the writer of exaggeration and hyperbole, and ask how from the loins of one man there could spring in so short a time so great a progeny. Giovanni was predicting what would continue to spread across Eurasia. The academic was aware that his readers would not believe him, but it wasn't until 2003 that science proved Giovanni wasn't lying after all. In 2003, research indicated 16 million men had DNA linked to Genghis Khan. People living at the time knew that Genghis Khan and his close followers spread their ideas across Eurasia like a seed, but science has changed what we know about how they affected people today. In 2003, the results of a study that looked at blood from people all over the old Mongol Empire were made public. The study, led by evolutionary scientist Chris Tyler-Smith, looked at blood from 16 different groups and found some strange things in the Y chromosomal lineage. Approximately 8% of the men in this region carry it, and it thus makes up about 0.5% of the world total. The pattern of variation within the lineage suggested that it originated in Mongolia approximately 1,000 years ago. They continued, "Such a rapid spread cannot have occurred by chance. It must have been a result of selection. The lineage is carried by likely male-line descendants of Genghis Khan, and we therefore propose that it has spread by a novel form of social selection resulting from their behavior." Based on the number of men in the world in 2003, it was thought that about 16 million men had DNA that went back to Genghis Khan. After these results came out, other researchers warned to be careful, saying that claims of a link are merely speculative because the statistical power is generally low. Only men have Y chromosomes, so the impact on women is unclear. Chris Tyler-Smith, an evolutionary biologist, says that the Y chromosome is little more than the biochemical switch that turns an embryo into a male child. Because of this, Tyler-Smith and his colleagues' study from 2003 only looks at men. People think that Genghis Khan and his successors probably had about the same number of female children as male children. This means that their genetic influence may extend much further than what science showed in 2003. Given that women don't have Y chromosomes, it's hard to find any possible link. Still, women can find their way back to Genghis Khan through their male cousins. However, since 2003, other studies have looked at how regular or not the 2003 results were. A study from 2007 said that the highest frequency of DNA markers from the cluster of Genghis Khan's descendants was found in Mongols, 34.8%. The percentages of DNA markers dropped a lot as people moved farther away from the Mongol birthplace. Boasting Mongolian genetics has been a source of pride throughout history. When Timur took power in the middle of the 1400s, he said he was related to Genghis Khan. As the Mongolian Empire fell apart in Central Asia, Timur, who was also known as Tamerlane and Timur the Lame, started the Timurid Empire. No one knows for sure what link there was between Timur and Genghis Khan, if there was one at all. One of them may have been related to both of them, but Timur also married a woman, or women, who were said to be related to Genghis Khan. Tamerlane spent his whole life building his kingdom and leaving a legacy as a great conqueror, a lot like Genghis Khan. Having Mongol ancestry was important in the ages after Genghis Khan's death, and it is still something that people are proud of today. Badruddin Batbayar, a historian, said, "He is like a god to us. He is the founder of our state, the root of our history." There are still strong national and personal ties to Genghis Khan in Mongolia, but they reach far beyond the Mongol country. In 2004, the London Shish restaurant gave free meals to people with Mongol ancestry. People of Mongol ancestry rushed to take a test. The restaurant gave out one a week and find out for themselves. 10 more super lineages have been discovered. Genghis Khan has been called a super stud because DNA can be used to find historical ancestors. Researchers have found 11 superstuds, but most people don't know who they are. 3 people have been narrowed down to more or less the same. Genghis Khan, Kanga, a Chinese ruler from the 1600s, and an unknown leader from Ireland's Uí Néill dynasty. Kanga's ancestors lived during the Qing dynasty, which began in 1644. Nurhaci, the founder of the Qing dynasty and leader of the Manchu people, was Kanga's grandpa. His Y chromosomal lineage was carried by approximately 3.3% of the males sampled from East Asia. In a way similar to the story of Genghis Khan, researcher Christopher Tyler Smith described it. We soon realized there was a major historical event going on at this time: the establishment of the Qing dynasty, which conquered China and ruled for several hundred years. It was ruled by the Qing imperial nobility, who were a highly privileged elite class, and they had several wives and concubines. Because of the privilege, they could have had many children, and those children would have had a good chance of survival. More study needs to be done on the Irish superstud, but work from the Smurfit Institute of Genetics at Trinity College in Dublin seems to confirm the existence of a single early medieval progenitor to the most powerful and enduring Irish dynasty. We hope you liked this video. Watch another video here.